So in New Jersey, we have what I would consider, and some people may differ on this a little bit, but two types of custody. Typically, what we're looking at is sole legal custody or joint legal custody. Now, sole legal custody is not granted that often in New Jersey, because typically if you have two parties who are interested in being present for their children and raising their children, the court's going to consider the needs of both parents. Each parent has a constitutional right to the company of their children, but in deciding who gets custody, whether it's legal, sole legal, or joint legal custody, the court is always going to look at what's in the child's best interest. Now, with joint legal custody, that means that both parents have to consult with one another about making major decisions with respect to their children. And that means when it comes to their medical care, their medical needs, their religion, their educational needs, parents have to co-parent. Parents have to be able to work together on some level. And once the court grants joint legal custodies to the parties, sometimes we have to make a designation as to who's going to be the parent of primary residence or who's going to be the parent of alternate residence. Typically, the parent of primary residence is the person who the child may tend to spend more time with. It doesn't necessarily take any rights away from the other parent, but the parent of primary residence is for instance, that's where the child is going to go to school, wherever that particular parent lives. Where the other parent, they may spend parenting time with their children on the weekends or sometime during the week, but the bulk of that time may be spent with the parent of primary residence. One of, I think, the most common misconceptions that male and female clients have is that the courts tend to favor mothers. Now, while each judge is their own human being, they bring their own personal experience to the courtroom, by statute, by law, what we call the tender years doctrine is really not in effect anymore. And what that is when a child is typically under the age of 7, the court was more inclined to have that child spend more time with the mother. But that's really no longer the case. I mean, each case is unique, but typically that's not the case anymore. And most people believe that, especially fathers, that they just stand no chance if they go into court and try to fight for custody of their children because it's automatically going to go to the mom. And that's not typically the case. So what the court, again, is going to look at is what's in the child's best interest. Because for parties who are separated, the way the court wants to see it, at least initially, is how that child can spend an equal amount of time with both parents. But that may not work out for all children. And we have to look at what is your family structure, what's happening in your family, the location of the parties, what kind of time the parents spent together before separating, what kind of time they had with the child, whether the child has siblings. There are a number of factors that the courts take into consideration when considering custody. Now, one of the things that I think is really important for clients to consider is that one of the biggest problems I see, the underlying problems I see in a lot of custody cases is communication between the parties. And what parents need to realize is that this is something the courts really consider. How are the two of you able to communicate, especially when it comes to your child? Now, there are many things that we can use to help the parties do that. There are a lot of apps out there now with modern technology where parties can communicate about a child's schedule, a child's program, a child's doctor's appointment. But ultimately, I feel like if the parties can figure out a way to, on some level, in a civil way, communicate with one another about what's happening with their children, not only does it serve the parents, but it serves the child. So if there's a way that people can really put the child first when it comes to thinking about how they have to deal with the other parent, I think that's going to go a long way in your custody case. Now, there's a lot of questions you may have about custody. How do I do it? How do I establish parenting time? How do I get more time with my children? And I understand you may have a ton of questions. That's why I think it's very important that you pick up that phone and give me a call today. Don't sit in your questions and wonder about how the law works in your case. Don't wait until it's too late and go in the courtroom and the judge orders something that's really difficult to change, and then you have regrets later on. It may be too late for anyone to help you at that point. So get on the phone, get online, give us a call today at 856-359-5222 and at least schedule a consultation. You don't want to wait too late. Your child is depending on you.